others can go. So we have a meeting of the Finance Committee. Now Lester is, I guess, the chairman. Would you mind being appointed temporarily to the Finance Committee?
Sure.
And to chair the meeting?
Okay, I'll do that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I'm going to temporarily appoint Chris Wright to be a member and chairman of the Finance Committee.
Great.
Chris?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to call to order a meeting of the Finance Committee of the Nassau County Interim Finance Authority at 6:45 on January 16th. We have two items of business before us. The first is to approve the minutes from the prior meeting. I think, Mo, you're a member of the committee. Would you move to approve the minutes?
I do, yes.
It's been made. Second, Mr. Chairman? You second?
Second, I second.
Motion's been made and seconded. I vote aye as well. The minutes are approved. The second item is the recommendation for the approval of a tender offer. And I believe that Conal's going to walk us through the details on that. And for the record, all members of the board are present. In the event that there are questions, I'm open to the questions being asked in the committee. And that may lessen the amount of questions that we have in the main board meeting. Okay.
Thank you. Excuse me. This item is consideration of a tender offer transaction, including the issuance of NYFA refunding bonds. At a previous meeting, the directors approved a resolution to retain certain professionals to assist NYFA in evaluating the potential tender offer transaction. In this proposed financing, NYFA would make an invitation to tender for purchase a portion of its outstanding federally taxable Series 2021 B bonds from bondholders, which purchase would be financed with the proceeds of new NYFA tax-exempt refunding bonds. At that prior meeting, staff indicated that approval to undertake the transaction itself would be sought later if sufficient savings continued to be expected after further review. Following a now favorable analysis, staff requests that this Finance Committee recommend to the Director's approval to enter into the transaction and issue up to $400 million of Series 2024A bonds, to refund certain of the 2021B bonds offered for purchase, as well as to refund certain of those 2021B bonds that are not tendered by bondholders, and also to pay cost of issuance. The par amount of the refunding bonds to be issued, however, is currently estimated to be approximately $127.4 million. And the refunding is currently estimated to result in net present value savings of approximately $6.4 million, or 4.2%, although the actual savings will depend on market conditions and other factors. We're expected to close in February, and with that, you're being asked to recommend that the directors approve the resolution that is included in your materials for the committee, and also in the full board materials. And I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
I guess a question, a statement in the form of a question or a question in the form of a statement for me. It would seem on the face of it, it would probably be illogical that you could refinance debt from a few years ago now that interest rates have gone up and experience savings. And the real reason behind that is because the feature changed from taxable to non-taxable.
To tax exempt, that's correct.
And that's really where we're getting the savings, because the market itself would not suggest that it would make any sense.
That's correct. It's the relationship between those taxable and tax-exempt interest rates, the fact that the taxable bonds aren't trading very well in the market, and bondholders, the idea is to entice bondholders with a little bit of, more than they would get in the market to tender their bonds to us, and that differential interest rates, it still makes money, it still makes sense. We can still save money by issuing tax-exempt refunding bonds to take out the taxable bonds.
Because an efficient market would make that a push. If it was taxable to taxable or non-taxable to
Right.
non-taxable, it's the change in the feature that's driving the savings.
Right, right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just to make that clear. Any questions from the other?
Yeah,
Mr.
what's the difference in rates between the old bonds and the new ones?
It's about 2.5 around, depending how you count the arbitrage yield on the new bonds and the old bonds. Joe, I don't know if you know exactly on the old bonds.
Pretty low rates.
Pretty low rates. One,
7
yeah.
to about 2%.
Yeah,
Two and less.
Amazing
Yeah.
how you can still get savings.
Right.
Yep.
So it's really you're able to buy at enough of a discount, and then the taxable to non-taxable, vice versa. Tax exempt feature from non-tax exempt, between the two pieces you get savings.
Right.
And I assume you would only do this if you realized some of the estimated, somewhere close to all the estimated savings.
I think that's right. What we presented is the base case. We expect around 30% participation based on the sort of history of these types of transactions. But we're hoping for greater participation. But if we had less participation, then we would have to evaluate it at the time to see whether we'd go forward. But we certainly wouldn't go forward if there wasn't significant savings.
You don't have to close.
We don't have to
Yes.
go forward, that's correct.
A couple of things. First, just to put on the record, when this was first considered by NIFA back in September, I was not a chairman of the board or even on the board at that point, but I was briefed extensively by Adam Barsky, who was the chairman at the time. And I've spent a number of months. I want to commend the staff, Connell in particular, but all the staff, Joe, who I know from his past work at the Long Island Power Authority, not for me. Well, you weren't there when I was there, right?
It's not, sir.
You wish you were, and I wish you were. I wish you
He
were.
talks about that all the time.
But exactly, I do. But and we've been very cautious in our approach in terms of looking at this thing. So one of the questions I have is, when you talk about the savings of about $6.4 million, it did, and I think I mentioned this when we met, Joe, back in December. The savings don't seem to be that significant. Are you confident, Connell, that the savings, that it's worth doing this financing based on the small amount of savings that there are?
It's worth doing it under this scenario, $6.4 million. It's all positive, obviously, and if you get it, the way we're expecting to get it, it's still worth doing. It pays for itself. It pays for the cost of issuance. So it's still, it may not be that significant, compared to the total cost, the total size of the county's budget, but it's still a savings that would come to us at NIFA, and then we pass on to the county. So it is worth doing, yes.
Okay.
Let me just clarify in case it's not clear. The 6.4 million estimated savings is after paying the cost of
So
issuance.
it's
That's the
It's
net
net,
savings,
right, it's net
estimated
savings.
net savings.
Right.
Correct.
And the other question, I know we raised it, but just to put it on the record, is have you discussed this with the county, and have they taken a position on this at all?
We have discussed it with the county. They've been involved in all of our meetings, all of our prep work to this point, and they'll continue to be involved through the closing, and they've been in favor of it. We've heard no objection. We've been working with them, to work on some of the technical details, but we expect them to continue to support the transaction.
And it doesn't reintroduce any derivatives. It's straight debt for debt.
Correct.
There's no, we're
No
not
derivatives.
buying or selling anything that could create variability
No,
or unexpected outcomes.
This is fixed rate debt.
fixed rate,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
fixed rate tax exempt debt.
The other thing is you mentioned that you hope to close sometime in February.
Correct.
Do you expect the savings number to change that significantly between now and then?
There are a number of factors, as I mentioned. This is unusual. A regular refunding, you would be calling your bonds and you sort of would know what your bonds were. Here, it's an unknown because we're asking the bondholders to tender the bonds to us. But again, this is a conservative case we've presented, 30% participation. We hope to get more than that. If we get a little bit more, the savings could be greater. A little less, maybe we hope it balances out. But and the interest rates could change. We just don't know. But this is our base case going forward at this point.
And again, it's important to point out that the savings go to the county, not to NIFA.
Right. It'll eventually work its way to the county, right?
Okay?
Any other questions? Would somebody like to move the item?
I'll move.
Made. Second.
Second?
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The item is moved. This next item would be to adjourn the committee to the full board. Would somebody like to move to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Made.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. The meeting is adjourned.
Okay, so now we have the meeting of the Nassau County Interim Finance Authority Board. First, just to take a roll call, starting with Mo to my left,
Mo Megchi, present.
John Zazo, present.
Richard Kessel, present.
Chris Wright, present.
Charo Esdras, present.
Okay, so we do have a quorum. First item on the agenda is the minutes from our meeting on December 18th, 2023. Do I hear a motion
Yeah,
to
approved.
adopt meetings? Mo?
I move it.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Are there any changes to the minutes in terms of corrections, additions, or omissions at this point? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Next, we're going to take up the tender offer that we just heard about. First, do I hear a motion to adopt the tender offers?
Mr. Chairman, at a meeting that just concluded, the Finance Committee unanimously recommended that the full board approve the tender offer that is before us. I move that we do so.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or further comments on the tender offer
And the issuance of the bonds.
And the issuance, of course.
and the issuance of bonds?
And all the related actions.
Any questions? I mean, just to point out, as I did in the remarks, that these are savings that will inure to the benefit of the county, and based on some of the recent things that we've read about spending in the county, I think it's a wise decision to go forward with it. So, with that, I support it. I think it's a wise choice to move forward on it. And if there are any changes, I will report those changes to the board. Okay? All right, hearing none,
Aye.
vote.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we've got a number of contracts. Martha, if you want to come up, we're going to take the Nassau Healthcare Corporation last. So we've got a number of contracts that we have to approve. Bove Industries, Pratt Brothers, we have 2 contracts, and we have 2 Wellsback contracts.
Right. So the 5 items are all contracts with the Department of Public Works, and they were all selected through an open competitive bidding process. Approval of the contracts that are funded with capital proceeds does not guarantee future borrowing authorization. Item 31723, Bove Industry. The contract term is 16 to 24 months from the notice to proceed, value at approximately $14.3 million. The county will be reimbursed approximately $4 million in the form of federal aid. The county share is approximately 10.3, and it will be funded with capital proceeds. The project aims to rehabilitate the Glen Curtis Bridge, which carries Glen Curtis Boulevard over the Meadowbrook Parkway in the town of Hempstead. Item 31523, Pratt Brothers.
We approved that
This-
last meeting. Didn't we approve Glen Curtis Boulevard last meeting?
No, that was Charles Lindbergh.
Charles Lindbergh, sorry.
Yes.
It runs into.
The other way
Runs
home.
into it,
No,
yeah.
Right.
So I have no way to go home now that's safe. All the bridges.
We didn't do that on purpose.
No, exactly.
Sorry.
Sorry.
31523, Pratt Brothers. This is a secondary agreement for the 2023 requirements contract for reconstructing and dewatering the county's drainage facilities. On December 18, 2023, the NIFA directors approved the primary contract for this project, which was DF Stone Contracting. Pratt Brothers was the second lowest bidder, and this is the secondary contract. The vendor, the term of the contract is 36 months from the execution date with 1-year renewal option, and is valued at $16 million. Funding includes the renewal option. The secondary contract will be utilized only if the primary contractor cannot perform all part of the work. Item 31623, Pratt Brothers again. The term of this contract is 1 year from the notice to proceed with 1-year renewal option, and is valued at approximately $7 million. The scope of the work involves pavement, drainage, and traffic safety improvements along Long Beach Road in Rockville Center and South Hempstead to repair poor pavement, eliminate numerous locations of ponding, and increase the capacity of the existing drainage system, and address safety concerns in front of the Cover Elementary School. Item 31123, Wellsback, Electric Corporation of Long Island. The contract term is 2 years from the notice to proceed with a 1-year renewal option. The contract is valued at $20 million. On December 29, 2023, the NIFA chairman approved $500,000 per the county's emergency request submitted to us on December 28, 2023. The remainder balance of $19.5 million requires NIFA approval. Funding includes a 1-year extension. The contract will be funded with operating funds and capital proceed. The vendor will provide maintenance, repair, and modifications to traffic signals, street lights, and related equipment 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. Item 312-23, Wellsback Electric Corporation of Long Island. The contract term is 36 months with a 1-year renewal option. The contract is valued at $5.1 million. The county will be reimbursed in the form of federal aid, approximately 80% or $4.1 million. The county share is approximately $1 million. The vendor will provide the day-to-day operation and maintenance of the county's traffic signal control system and communication infrastructure, including the equipment in the county's traffic management center. Those are all
Okay,
the items.
thank you. And we're holding, for the time being, the health, Northwell Healthcare contract. First of all, before we discuss, I have a couple of points to make on a couple of, did you want to do these together?
Yes.
You okay on doing them all together?
Yes.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to adopt all of the aforesaid contracts?
I'll move.
Okay, Mo is moved.
For clarity, items Roman 4 through Roman 9.
Yep,
Yeah.
you want to second it?
Yeah.
Are you seconded? Let me just,
Through 8, sorry. 9 is something else. 4 through 8, sorry.
okay. Just a couple of points I want to make to the board. You know, it seems to me, and again, I've only been here a couple of months, that some of the contract process that exists between the county and NYPA has to be improved. First of all, Martha, I think you do a terrific job. I really do, and I have full faith and confidence in you. But, you know, as an example, one of the Wellsback contracts that's on the agenda for today, we had to actually split up so that we could make some deadlines for the county that otherwise would have been very costly. And so we split it up. I think I did have staff reach out to the directors to make sure everyone was comfortable with it. And I approved, I think it was $500,000, right?
Yes.
$500,000, and we're now approving the rest. But one thing that I think is important, and I have a meeting scheduled with the county in the next few days. And one of the things I think is very important is that the county has to recognize the fact that it's inappropriate for NYPA to approve contracts that were already approved and executed before it came to us. I understand there are emergencies, and I'll give you an example of one of the contracts a few months ago, which was the one for the Grand Avenue sinkhole that developed over the summer. And I understand that there are emergencies, but at the same time, all the county has to do is pick up the phone and tell us, and we can deal with it. I just want to make it very clear, I'm not trying to, you know, bust anyone's chops or anything, but I do want to make it clear that, you know, if a contract comes to us and it's already completed or it's in the process of being executed without our approval, I'm going to be very hesitant to approve those contracts or even to submit them to the board. There has to be a process, and you know, there's a big history to this. Evan has talked to me about it, and Martha has talked to me about it. Jeremy talked to me about it a number of times. The county, you know, there's a process that's in place, and I think that from here on in, you know, I'm going to talk to the county about it first. If a contract comes to us and you know, it's been executed already, the services have been provided, I'm going to hesitate to approve that contract. And at some point, it's going to be an embarrassment for the county and the vendor involved, because the vendor is expecting payment, which they should if they do the work. But if the contract is required to be approved by NYPA, and just to make this point, and I think I made it a couple of months ago, there are different levels of approval. There's staff approval, there's chairman approval, and there's board approval. And we are reviewing some of that now, and Evan, I think we spoke the other day, hopefully we're going to come back to the board next month and maybe amend some of those levels in some ways. But the bottom line is that right now, there are certain levels of approval. And, you know, if a contract's going to come to us and it's already being executed, what's the point of NIFA approving it after the fact? I understand there are emergencies, and there's some times when it can't be helped. All I want is a phone call to one of our staff people, or even to me if it's a major issue. The other thing I do want to point out is that contracts need explanation sometimes. And, you know, a lot of contracts that we get are open-ended in the sense that, you know, I won't give a specific example, but, you know, there are contracts that we get frequently from the county attorney's office or the medical center about law firms that we want to hire, with no explanation or barely any explanation of what the law firms will do. I recognize a lot of the law firms. I've been around a long time. I get it. But we're not going to just willy-nilly approve contracts with the name of a law firm and the amount. We want to know exactly what those law firms are being hired to do. So I think that's important. The other final point I want to make is that there is a contract tonight on the agenda for Northwell and the medical center. I'm not objecting to that contract. I know that they've had services being provided for Northwell for years and haven't paid them. And now all of a sudden the bill is due. But one of the questions that I think we need to ask, and I'm going to ask from now on, I think I did with the law firms that Martha was before me, is based on the cash position of the hospital, which right now is not good, maybe sicker than a lot of the patients in the hospital, is that the hospital needs to explain to us the affordability of those contracts. Again, I'm not saying that we should reject them necessarily, but in addition to explaining to us the why and what of the contract, I think they also need to affirm to us that they can afford to pay the contract, that they have the money available to pay the contract. So that's something that from now on we're going to ask of every major contract that comes from the University Medical Center. And I will keep you posted about it. I'm not trying to create problems, but at the same time, you know, based on a lot of the information, you know, this board has been very dedicated and hardworking. Our biggest problem right now, and Chris talked to me about it when I first came on board, is the hospital and the cash position. And to be honest with you, it stinks. It's in bad shape, and we're working very hard to try to fix it. And you know, it's going to take a huge effort and a partnership between NIFA, the state, the governor's office, and the medical center. And with all that, we can't just willy-nilly approve contracts that come before us for various services that maybe in a time when you're cash poor, you can't afford at that particular moment. So from now on, I just wanted the board to know, I want the hospital to be able to assert to us that they can afford the contracts that they're sending over to us. And something that, you know, again, I'm going to begin to enforce because I think it's critically important to know. You know, I've got a good sense, and we've got a good sense of the financial condition of the hospital. It's not good. And the spending that's gone on at that hospital for years is no longer acceptable. Now, again, I'm not going to disprove services that are needed to help people, you know, who are sick, who are indigent, uninsured or underinsured. We recognize all that. But there are expenses that are being made that concern me. And I want an explanation not only as to what those services are, but the fact that the hospital can assert to us that currently, now, they can afford to pay those contracts. So I just wanted to let the board know about all that, and I will keep you posted further as we go forward.
Mr. Chairman, it seems to me that you're right. There are emergencies, but there can't be that many. And
I
I think
have
also
a question.
the staff has done a great job, I think, and you know, it's not like we're a major holdup. If you get a contract that doesn't require the board to meet, it's a, what, 2-3 day turnaround?
Yes.
So we're,
Depending if
like,
we
we're
get
the
everything
last
right.
3 days of a process that's getting to us too late.
Exactly.
And I think you're right to clamp down on that.
I I'm on this board for about a year now. This is the first time I'm hearing ever that there are contracts that have not been approved yet, that are executed and completed. And my humble opinion is, instead of stating that you will consider not approving them, they shouldn't be approved whatsoever. If they're not getting the proper approval that they should get, there's policies and rules in place, and those policies and rules must be followed. And if they're not, then they're not approved.
Well, I think you're 100% right. And, you know, just to give you an example of the frustration, and I'm just using this as an example. Everyone knows about the sinkhole that developed on Grand Avenue in Baldwin. And obviously, you need to fix that right away. And it's an emergency.
Right, that's.
And so, you know, it's very simple. We all have cell phones, right? All we need to do, all the county needs to do is pick up the phone and call us and tell us, we need to adhere to this right away. We've got to fulfill this as a serious emergency. And we're noticed. And that is all we need. It's all we ask for. But I think that you know.
But if we've done this before, Mr. Chairman, the county will continue to do it again and again and again because they get our approval anyway. So.
Yes, I agree.
If you advise them that we get a contract in front of us that's already been executed and completed, or even started without approval, and we're happy to speak to you immediately, as you said, because these are not contracts, I believe, are probably not coming in front of the whole board. These are contracts that
Most of them.
the chairman is approving, and
Or the staff.
it's unacceptable.
Right, well, the staff.
It's
Right.
completely unacceptable.
Yep, well, and you should know, Charo, that I am, you know, I've been in touch. I'm going to be meeting with the Chief Deputy County Executive, Arthur Walsh, who I've known, you know, for many years, and put them on notice. Because I just think, again, this has gone on for a long time. You know, part of it is operational. Part of it is maybe a little bit of an attitude adjustment that's needed, which I will perform, not as an operation, but as in some way. But I just, you know, I think it frustrates. You know, we've got, and I don't say this enough, but we've got a great staff. You know, I'm just learning. You know, met some of them I've known for many years, decades, in fact. Others I've just recently met, but they are very dedicated. They're very hardworking, and you know, I think that they deserve the respect. And you know, it's a two-way street in terms of things that we need to do. You know, the county controller, Elaine Phillips, I don't know her really well. I know her a little bit. Keeps saying that we should get out of the control period, and I keep saying we'll get out of the control period when you do your first audit of the county, whatever century that'll be in. But the bottom line is that we've got a relationship. Right now we're in a control period, and it's going to continue for quite some time. And the longer that the county, and I get it, I get it. The county doesn't like being in a control period. You know, we don't hear a lot of complaints about it lately, but the bottom line is that, and so it creates this tension, and I think there's an attitude out there, and I'm not sure it's all purposeful, that, you know, it's NYFA. You know, we'll give it to them when we want to give it to them. That's not what NYFA was created to do, and I should know, since I was on the first NYFA board and was part of the team that wrote that legislation 23 or 24 years ago. So I'm fully aware of why it was put in place and what the history is, even though I wasn't on the board when we went into the control period. But if there is a control period, you have to adhere to it. That's all I'm saying. And Charo, I can assure you that I will be communicating that message to the county when I meet with them.
I'm always happy to help with the county.
With this,
Thank you.
with the board's support.
Yes, well, I appreciate that very much. I may bring you along, Charo. Just bring a screwdriver.
I don't need a screwdriver.
And Tom's.
And now it's enough.
Philip said.
All right, so we can take are there any other questions about any of those contracts? Are you hearing none? Do I hear a motion to approve those contracts?
Yeah, we moved to approve items 4 through 8.
Okay.
Block.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Now, we've got just one point here, since we just spoke about it in a different way. There's one contract remaining. That's the Northwell Nassau Healthcare Corporation contract. At this point, do we want to do the contract or defer it? You know, Meg, I know Meg wants to make a presentation.
She was gonna be here in case there were questions that she can address better than I can, than I could.
I suggest we defer it.
I would love to hear from
Yeah.
Okay, well,
how this can creep up over 4 years. Yeah. I'd love to
okay,
hear that.
at this point, we'll defer it.
That would be my motion to take.
And if she
it to the
comes,
next meeting. Yeah.
we'll take it up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you want to table or just, we'll just?
Well, it's up to you. You could take it off the agenda if nobody objects, or we could move to table it. The problem is then we have to move to untable it. So if you
Yeah,
just take it off.
I'll just take it off the agenda, and if Meg comes
That's fair.
tonight, we'll be glad to give her the courtesy.
Okay.
Okay? Next, we've got appointment of general counsel. As you all know, we discussed it at the last meeting, Jeremy Wise has left, retired as general counsel, been here a long time, did a lot of great things for the authority, and we thank him for all his years of service. There is a resolution before you this evening to appoint John Chiara, we say it, John? Okay, as our new general counsel and an officer of the corporation. John, I don't want, you don't have to give a speech or anything, but John is sitting over here, we have a resolution to appoint him general counsel and an officer of the authority.
I'll move it.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion or questions?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, also, our deputy general counsel has just done a terrific job as deputy general counsel on all the borrowings. And we're talking to Evan about it. I'd like to recommend to the board that we appoint Connell Denon as chief borrowing officer of the authority.
Moved.
Okay, Chris moves it. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mo, you seconded. Is there any discussion further about it? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, now, we're going to be going into executive session. I will now entertain a motion for the directors to conduct an executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law 105 to consider the financial history of a particular corporation. Is there a motion?
I'll move that on that basis.
Okay, is there a
Second.
second? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Just for public's sake, I'm expecting this executive session probably to last about a half hour. We will come back. I don't anticipate any votes coming out of the executive session. You can hang around if you want to, but the only thing I anticipate doing is adjourning after the executive session. Okay? Directors, come with me, and you want to stay?
The session advised the public that no actions or votes were taken while we were in that session.
Thank you, Chris. Before we adjourn, we have,
Yeah, we need to vote to come back. Yeah.
oh, okay. So do I have a motion to
Made.
come back into regular session?
Made.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, the motion carries. All right, so we're back in regular session. We didn't, as Chris said, we didn't take any votes in executive session. We do have one order of business left, and that is the contract that we deferred with Northwell and the Nassau University Medical Center. So Meg is here. So I'll ask, you want to come up and make a presentation? This is Meg Ryan, who's general counsel. Well, actually, you're now acting CEO, general counsel.
A lot of titles.
You got a lot of titles.
First of all, I just want to apologize for the
It's okay.
delay tonight. I got stuck at the hospital. So thank you for your time. So I'm presenting tonight our Northwell cardiology contract that we have with Nassau Healthcare Corporation. And they've had this contract since on or about 2006. And they run our cardiology department. So just to make the board aware, they provide a chairperson for the department, 2 cardiologists, an administrator, malpractice insurance, medical. We pay for medical dues and training for all of these positions. And I know that there has been a question about the delay. So while the contract, they've been rendering services to us since 2006. We need a contract. We haven't been able to pay them since 2019. In 2019, we made our last payment. Unfortunately, there have been a lot of changes both at NUMIC and at Northwell. So we had to, in 2019, we did have a cath lab application that we had submitted. We were waiting on the approval from New York State. We just received that last April in 2023, as you're aware. We were working with Northwell in their legal department, just getting the correct invoices. On both sides, there was some confusion to confirm how to confirm these invoices over the years, what got paid, what did not get paid. We were able to figure it out. And it took some time because there was some changeover in the Northwell legal department as well. So when Christine White took over this contract and I started working with her, we started with the contract for the peds cardiology, because that was something that was necessary, and we needed services to continue services for that. And Northwell was very gracious. We've had a relationship with them for decades. They did not pull any services on this contract, so they continued to render services. We worked out the pediatric cardiology contract in the middle of COVID. COVID happened, as you're aware, in 2020, which was very difficult to get meetings. We were just focusing on the day-to-day operations of continuing hospital operations. So once we figured out and finalized the PEDS contract for cardiology, which the board, NIFA approved, our board approved, we went forward on this contract. And the delay has been, like I said, just some turnover, COVID, but also we did receive in April the cath lab approval. So we were trying to figure out exactly when we were going to be able to build out the cath lab. We're going to use them probably for some more services in some areas for the cath lab and scale back maybe some other services in the department. So we haven't, and that's a work in progress. Right now, as everyone's aware, government, there's a lot of delays. So we had to get a new CON approved back in November. We had to do some changes of work just for the facilities putting more sprinklers in and moving some things around, because we had submitted our application in 2017, and as you're aware, things changed over the years and the needs have changed. So we just received that back end of November. This went to our board in December. I worked with Christine White and Jeff Kraut on a proposal. We did this proposed contract. The term of the contract ends on December 31st, 2024. It is anticipated that we are going to renew the term. As NIFE is well aware, and we've been working with Alvarez and Marcel, your consultant, and we have a fiscal crisis. So for the purposes of continuing the services and a continuation of care and not stopping any operations, Northwell has agreed that if we can get this 6.8, and this would pay for everything from 2019, all of their invoices. That was the last payment. We made a partial payment of $475,000. I'm sorry, we made a partial payment in 2019, so we owe $475,000 and $253 from 2019, and then it's 1.659 and change for 2020, 2021, 2022. And then the extra 1.352 would cover us through all invoices paid up through October 31st, 2023. So that's how we were able to finalize this total amount of $6,804,581.66. We do know that we will have to come back to my board first and to NIFA for the remainder of funding for the 2024. We also are working out what we need what we have to get done. So maybe we might be cutting some services or scaling back some services, and also what we might have to add. And everything is very fluid right now because besides our fiscal crisis over at the hospital that we're working out, we also have to worry about building this cath lab out right now. So we were supposed to open, we're hoping to open this quarter. We didn't even do the construction yet. So this is something that the cath lab's not opening for a matter of months. So this is something that we have to rework our needs for the hospital with Northwell. So I'm hoping tonight that our board did approve this. This did go, this amount was in our cash projections that were submitted to NIFA and also that Alvarez has received. So I am hoping, and our board did approve this at our December board meeting, and I did present this to our board, and I did have discussions with Northwell last week. They're aware that this is on tonight. So I am asking for your approval and consideration tonight. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Sure.
Couple of questions.
Of course.
Thanks for taking the time. What is the intended, given your fiscal issues, what is the intended timing of when you plan to pay this?
Well, we're not
To
paying this in
Northwell.
one lump sum, if that's what you're asking. So we are trying to do payments, and we're working out a payment plan with Christine White over at Northwell and the Northwell team. Nothing has been finalized, and everything will be, of course, consulted with Alvarez. We have almost daily calls now with Alvarez, so we will work out that plan. But this is just the approval of the funds, so we're able to start making payments because they are there. Our chairperson is there every day. They are providing the services. They have not stopped. As you know, with COVID, the cardiology department was one of the #1 departments that we needed, and they haven't been paid on this contract since 2019.
So look, I mean, no question, the fact that they're rendering the services
Right.
is
Yes.
still, is a plus, and we don't want to interrupt that. How did, what caused the breakdown in the process that this wasn't brought up to
Well, I can be very
to us?
honest, and I'll be very blunt with you. As you're aware, we just got a CFO a week ago. So our finance department back in 2020 and 2021 was without a CFO. Over at Northwell, they did not submit bills to the proper persons or parties at the hospital. There was a delay. I'm going to say it was a mutual delay in the beginning on both sides. We did have COVID, and then Northwell did have a change in leadership. So the attorneys that had this contract are no longer there that we were dealing with. My attorney that had the contract, she left at that time. So it was like the perfect storm for Northwell not to get paid. And it wasn't. It was not on the minds of everyone at the board on our side to pay Northwell when we're trying to just get through. So we had been working on this. We did the pediatric cardiology contract. That was something that we had to, Northwell wanted to put that as a priority. So we did that, and that took time too, going through all the invoices and such, and then going back. And it was, we went through and made sure to see when our last payment to Northwell was. We had different numbers and things, so it took some time.
Are there other similar instances of contracts falling through?
No, not to my knowledge, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
And you said you're feeding this through Alvarez, so.
We're not feeding, we
Well, you're
discussed
sharing
things.
you're
Sure.
sharing the cash flow plans with Alvarez.
Oh, yes.
Because that's
Yeah.
how we'll stay connected.
Yeah, every
to it.
Thursday, I'm on a call with Alvarez and Mr. Dreyer and the team. I have an open communication with Mr. Winter. So, we talk to, and we're available. Like I said, we have a great CFO that started January 1st, and I think he speaks to Alvarez pretty much daily now. So we're in a good flow of information.
You're anticipating going with the STEMI Center, and then what services are you looking to cut? In cardiology or?
No,
or
I think some of the administration for cardiology.
Yeah.
I'm talking. No, not cutting service, just shifting. So maybe we're going to take control over certain things, administration fees and administrative duties. But we are in talks with them to do our quality for the cath lab because, as you're aware, the first 2 years or so opening up the cath lab is something that maybe our folks aren't going to be used to. They're training them, so we'll use Northwell for some trainings because they have been doing this for a very long
Right.
time.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions on the board? Just, Meg, one thing, the payments that you're gonna make to Northwell, you will keep us informed
Of course. So
about what the schedule is, because one of the
Correct.
concerns that I think we have is the cash position at the hospital. And I'm glad to hear that the hospital and NIFA kind of agree
No.
on the numbers at this point, because as you know, in the past, that wasn't necessarily the case. But now there's a general agreement, and I think there's a concern by members of the board that you're in a really tough cash situation right now. So
And we are,
keep, and I'm
Yes.
glad for you to hear you say that.
yes.
Because the fact that you don't know, you can't solve a problem if you don't think there is one. And I think we appreciate the fact that you're saying that, because, and I wasn't here at the time, but for years, that's not the message that we were getting. The hospital kind of went along its merry way, denying that there was a problem. You know that there is a problem. The only point I'm making, and I think Chris made it before, is to keep us through Alvarez or, through Carl,
Yes.
informed about the schedule of those payments and when they're made, because obviously that's going to affect the amount of cash that you've got to deal with. And
Yes.
right now things are very tight.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the part of the board?
I'm good.
All right.
Good.
Do you want to do a motion to approve the
I'll move.
contract? Mo.
Seconded.
All right, John, second. Any comments further? All right, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
Is there any further business to come before the NIFA board?
I move that we adjourn.
All right, I'll second it.
I'll third.
Who third is you, Mo?
Fourth.
Okay,
Stand up.
everyone, let me just say two things. Be very careful.